I think you'd maybe be interested in an experience I had at Jacob Lake, Arizona. Jacob Lake was owned by my Aunt Nina Bowman and Harold Bowman. Jacob Lake's where the family uh, sends those children that they have uh, some concern for or with that are not always the most obedient or disciplined. And I got sent down to Jacob Lake from the time I was 13 years old during the summertime to work with Uncle Harold and Aunt Nina. And I loved them, had a wonderful experience. The only ones at Jacob Lake at that time was Uncle Billy Crosby, Uncle Harold, Aunt Nina, me, Jack, and we had a cook there that came sometimes, and we had somebody that helped make up the beds in the cabins. But this is back when we only had, when we had a service station that had only two pumps, and these pumps you would pump up the gas into these big glass containers that was up on top of them, and then by gravity you would let the gas go out, and you could watch the meter. It would say 10-gallon first, 9-gallon, 8-gallon, and you could sell how many gallons you wanted to sell to up to 10-gallon. At any rate, we had found a way where we could grow gasoline. Now, that sounds funny, but we learned that if we put the gas in the large tanks that were down over the hill, that were in the sun, that the gas would expand as it was heated by the sun. And so we could gain about 4% or so in gallons by pumping it up from the big tanks down below to a small tank up by the service station that was just barely under the ground. And we would gain a few gallons of gas by doing that. Well, it was my job at 13 years of age. I was in charge of the service station. And so the one thing that I had to do that had to be proper and not make any mistakes on was to turn the pump off at the time that the small tank was getting full. And it took about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to do that. Well, this one time, I thought, well, I'm going to go take a nap, and I'll just wake up and turn it off before it runs over, the pump. And so I laid down on my bunk in the back of the service station and turned the pump on and took a nap. All of a sudden, I heard somebody banging on the door and saying, "Is there anybody in here? Anybody? There's gas going everywhere out here." Oh, man, I knew exactly what had happened. I bailed off of that bunk, and I ran out as fast as I could and turned off the pump. As I looked out across the parking lot, all I saw was fumes coming up. And I thought, oh my golly, what in the world have I done? My life has ended. I got to get out of here. Uncle Harold will kill me. And so after I got it shut off, I built a tree house that nobody knew about down about two canyons, two arroyos to the north of the cabins, and I'd spent, I don't know, a long time building this little platform up in the tree, and so that's the first place I thought of because nobody knows about it. So that's where I went, and I climbed that tree, and I could hear Uncle Harold out there. Jackie, Jackie, where are you? Answer me. And I just laid just flat on the floor there, and I didn't want, that's the last person in the world I wanted to see. I didn't ever want to see Uncle Harold again. I knew what I'd done. I knew what had happened. Anyway, I got to thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till after dark when nobody will know me or see me, and nobody will see me come back. And I had a pair of brand new cowboy boots, and I loved those boots. And I thought, I'm going back to the station tonight and get those, and then I'm going to walk all night long to Fredonia, and maybe I can get out of here without getting caught. And so I waited till dark, and all this time Uncle Harold's out there looking for me. And anyway, you can guess what happened. I snuck back over to the station, and I came around the corner of the station, and who do you think was standing there? Uncle Harold. And I could have died. I just wanted to just go through the earth. And I'll never forget what he said. He said something that stayed with me all my life. He said, Jackie, I thought I'd hired a man, and all I got was a damn kid. And he turned around and walked into the lodge. I'd much rather had a licking. Anything would have been better than to disappoint my Uncle Harold. Well, things were pretty sullen for a long time. The gasoline evaporated, and business went on, and came to the end of the summer. And Uncle Harold called me into the office, and he said, Jackie, you know you've cost me a whole lot more than you're worth. I've lost a lot of money because of you. So I can't pay you anything this summer. He says, but if you want, you can go over there to the curio shop and pick you out a piece of jewelry, and you can have something to help you remember this summer. I went over, and I saw a beautiful bracelet there that I still have. This is it. I've worn this for 76 years, 77, whatever it is, to help me remember that you don't go to sleep at the switch, or you pay the consequences. And this bracelet that I picked out, I found out later, was a palm bracelet. They designate a palm bracelet as a piece of ancient jewelry, Indian jewelry, Navajo jewelry, that's at least 100 years old. So at the time that I picked this out, and it was labeled $12.50 at that time, this was over 100 years old at that time. Today it's over 200 years old, because I've worn it for 70 some odd years. And I wear it because it reminds me to not go to sleep at the switch. When you're on the job, you stay on the job and you pay attention to what you're doing. You don't lay down and take a nap. So this has taught me a lot. It's important to me. One of the great lessons that I learned at Jacob Lake from my Uncle Harold and Aunt Nina, and many of our family have gone down there in summers. They now hire 50, 60 young people every summer to work at Jacob Lake. In those days, there was Uncle Billy, who ran the horses, Aunt Nina and Uncle Harold, who ran the lodge. Me, I ran the service station. And we had one or two other people that helped make up the cabins and cook. Today, they have at least 75 to 100 people there all summer long. So the business has thrived. It survived Jack Nixon spilling hundreds or maybe thousands of gallons of gasoline. Oh, and by the way, that was ethyl gasoline, which you folks don't know what that is. But ethyl gasoline was high-tech gasoline. That's what we call now premium gasoline. I didn't spill the cheap gasoline, which was regular gasoline. Anyway, that's the story I have. It's taught me a lesson. It's been a good lesson for me. We've had lots of our family that have worked at Jacob Lake. A lot of you who are listening to this will have worked there, been aware of it. You've all learned lessons at Jacob Lake. Great training ground for the Nixon family. At that time, gasoline was about 15 to 17 cents a gallon. Today, gasoline around $2.40 a gallon. Premium gallons, 10 cents more than regular gas. I spilled the ethyl gas, so I spilled 17 cents a gallon gasoline instead of the cheaper gasoline. But
how many gallons do you think?
I have no idea. Hundreds of gallons, maybe 3,000 gallons, because I was asleep a long time there, and it was just pumping it.